Not everything that you experience in life deserves a response in that moment. In fact, most of it doesn't. If you're having a conversation with your wife and it's bothering you, you can say, hey, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let me think on that a little bit. If your kids say something that maybe is rude or upsets you, or a client, or your boss, or a coworker, or a colleague, etc., pause, take a time out, take a breath, relax. Not everything needs to be answered immediately. I was watching one of my favorite movies, which is Gladiator, just the other day, and the quote that really stood out to me as I was watching the movie was by Maximus, which said, "What we do echoes in eternity." Now, that might be a attribution. I think it was actually probably more likely to be Marcus Aurelius who said that in his book, Meditations, and through his Stoic philosophy. But regardless, the impact and the weight of what that had on me in that moment and throughout my entire life has been very, very powerful for me. And I hope that it is for you too, if you've never heard that quote, or if you're just trying to wrap your head around what that means. I think being able to lengthen out our horizon and our time frame as men is a very powerful thing. Too many of us tend to operate in the here and now. We allow our emotions to get the better of us, and we think what is prudent now is going to serve us best. But I'm not going to say very rarely, but I am going to say that oftentimes what we want now is at direct odds with our betterment for the future. So today I'm going to talk with you about a few things. Number one, I'm going to talk with you about 3 things that you need to keep in mind as to why we need to maintain a very long-term perspective with our goals, desires, dreams, and ambitions. And then number 2, I'm going to share with you 3 very simple strategies that you can implement right now to ensure that you are keeping and maintaining a long-term perspective in life, and therefore producing results that just aren't fleeting or luck or chance or happenstance, but very predictable results for your own betterment and for the betterment of the lives of the people that you love and care about. Number 1, and we're talking about the mindsets, we're talking about the thought process behind why you ought to maintain a long-term horizon with your goals and dreams and desires. Number 1, it keeps us from allowing our emotions to get the better of us. Guys, we're all emotional, all right? I'm so tired of the so-called quote-unquote alphas online telling us that we have to be badasses and that we can't express our emotions and we can't feel the emotions and we can't be emotional creatures. I mean, how are you going to do that? Really, it's biologically hardwired into you to be emotional. Now, that's not to say that we need to react emotionally, but to say that you can just get rid of your emotions simply because you want to or because some schmo on Instagram or Facebook or through a podcast told you to be less emotional, it doesn't work like that. You are going to be emotional. Our job is to regulate our emotions. When it comes to romance, when it comes to entrepreneurship or business ownership, when it comes to our own personal desires and dreams and ambitions, you can't help but be emotional. But what I've found is that emotions, although a consideration in the equation, if meant to be the end-all, save-all, will probably set us up for failure because we're fickle, we're greedy, we're jealous, we're envious, we're ambitious. We want all the things without any of the effort immediately right now, and to hell with everybody else. And I'm the same way. I would love that too. But when we look for things where we can have immediate gratification, it comes at the expense of learning the lessons that need to be learned that will inevitably produce the lifelong results for us. So when we embrace this idea that what we do echoes in eternity, meaning it pushes us and expands us out further than our emotions might be able to acknowledge, we can begin to make clearer decisions based not on emotion alone, but logic, reasoning, rational decision-making, et cetera, et cetera. Number 2, it keeps us from shortchanging ourselves. If I am wanting to make $1 million right now, I could do a lot of things that would help me make $1 million immediately. And you could do a lot of things that would help you make $1 million today. But if we do that at the expense of our own morals and virtues and principles, we might make that $1 million, but we won't make it down the road. We won't be able to create the systems, structures, procedures, processes, etc., that will inevitably produce long-term results. It's also the same in relationships. You know, you can go chase tail. You can find an attractive, lovely woman. You can pursue her. You can say all the right things, and you can get what you want in the short term, which is basically physical. Or alternatively, you could find a very attractive woman who you're attracted to physically, but also mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and you can work to build a lifelong relationship. Getting laid, although feels really good in the moment, doesn't actually produce the results that I think most of us want. So lengthen out the horizon. Think about slowing the relationship down. When it comes to business, get rid of the get rich quick schemes and the hacks. You know, that's another thing we see not only with wealth, but also with health. You know, hack and biohack and trick the system, game the system, manipulate the system. I mean, it's so prevalent. It's just obnoxious at this point. There's no shortcut. There's prudent decision-making, but there's no shortcut. Lengthen out the time and realize that if you are just chasing the momentary pleasure, you're going to leave a lot of room on the table for what comes next. And look, it's tempting to chase what could happen over the next 6 months and forget about what might happen over the next 6 years. I'm going to take the 6 years. I'm going to double down on the small and simple things that help me really, really achieve over 6 years what most people are just pursuing over 6 months. Number 3, it keeps us in the abundance and investment mindset. When you're thinking about what you can get right now, immediately, in a relationship, in a business, in your health, you're going to do dumb things. And the trick is that some of it might actually work. You can starve yourself, for example, and lose 5 to 10 pounds as a man over the next week. You could absolutely do that. But does that mean you're healthy? No, of course not. You could really try to win a woman over by saying and doing all the right things and, you know, whining and dining her, and you might get your result. But does that mean you have a deep connection and relationship with her? Of course not. You could say all the right things to your children and they could love what you're saying, but if you don't follow through, does that mean you actually have a connection with them? No, and they'll see right through it. So when you adopt the idea that we're going to play a longer term game here, and look, I'm not going to tell you that, well, let me back up. I don't know what you believe. I don't know if you believe in God. I don't know if you even believe in eternity. But I will say, whether you believe in God or Christ or whoever it might be for you, that having a longer term perspective, regardless of what you believe happens to us when we die, will really help you live a better life. And some people will say, well, you know, I have to sacrifice the current. You're not sacrificing anything. I don't sacrifice when I go to the gym. I don't sacrifice when I have deep and meaningful conversations with the people I care about. It takes time, sure, but it's an investment. It's an investment in them. It's an investment in myself. It's an investment in life. And I believe that it will always pay big dividends. Excuse me. All right, so let's jump right into after, you know, obviously we go through those. So it keeps us from allowing our emotions to get the better of us, having this long-term perspective. It keeps us from shortchanging ourselves in the results that we produce. As they say, good is the enemy of great. And then number 3, it keeps us in abundance and investment mentality, meaning I am going to pour into the people I care about. I'm going to pour into the businesses and causes and missions and movements that I care about. But let's talk about what you can do specifically. Number one, stop before you act, right? The very first thing that's going to happen whenever you're presented with a conversation, a situation, a set of circumstances, is the lizard brain's going to step in, and it's going to, it's called the amygdala. It's going to keep you from rationally thinking about what you ought to do. The amygdala is designed to keep you safe. It's the part of the brain, we call it the lizard brain. It's the most ancient part of the brain that controls our feelings. It's the flight and fight or freeze response. So maybe your wife doesn't call you when you think she does or should, or when she normally does. And instead of thinking, maybe she's busy, you think, oh, she doesn't love me anymore. Oh my gosh, she's gotten into an accident. Oh, the end of the world. It's the catastrophe that I've been assuming would happen. And then she calls you an hour or two later and says, hey, I'm sorry, my phone died. This is what we would call a cognitive distortion. Specifically, it's black and white thinking and catastrophizing. Now, I only know that because I do that myself. But what happens is we let that lizard brain, the amygdala, take over our response, and we make dumb decisions based on irrational, completely irrational decision-making processes. Your wife isn't ignoring you. She doesn't hate you. She's just busy. Her phone died. Maybe she dropped her phone and it broke. Like, it could be a million things, and yet we as men immediately jump to the worst case scenario. I really want you to look up the concept of cognitive distortion because it's really going to help you. But the point that I want to make back and draw it back to when we're talking about extending and stretching our perspective out over long term is just stopping for a second. When you're heated or you're frustrated or you have anxiety or you're anxious or you're upset, just stop. Not everything that you experience in life deserves a response in that moment. In fact, most of it doesn't. If you're having a conversation with your wife and it's bothering you, you can say, hey, thank you for bringing that to my attention. Let me think on that a little bit. If your kids say something that maybe is rude or upsets you, maybe say, hey, you know what? That's a rude thing to say. That's not a proper way to behave, and I want to teach you how to do that. But you don't need to wrap up your identity into it. You don't need to blow up just because your kid said something, or a client, or your boss, or a coworker, or a colleague, et cetera, et cetera. Pause. Take a time out. Take a breath. Relax. Not everything needs to be answered immediately. There is a gap between the stimulus and the response. You guys have all heard this. There's a gap between the stimulus, which is the experience that you're having right now, and the response. And the more thoughtful, not the longer, but the more thoughtful that gap is, the more likely you are to respond in a very positive way. Number two, I call it the 5-5-5 rule. I was introduced to this idea, this concept, probably 10 years ago by a friend of mine. And when we're dealing with difficult and challenging circumstances, I think what you ought to ask yourself is, number one, is this going to matter in 5 hours? Is this going to matter in 5 hours? Number two, is this going to matter in 5 days? Is this going to matter in 5 days? And number three, is this going to matter in 5 months? And I think through those three questions, we could pretty much rule out 99.68% of all of the things that we think we're struggling with. Most of what we're dealing with is not going to matter in the next 5 hours. It really isn't. You're going to come up with new challenges, new struggles. People are going to be pulling on you for other time and attention and energy, let alone 5 days or 5 weeks. And I would tell you that if it's not going to matter in the next 5 hours or 5 days or 5 weeks, then maybe it doesn't matter now. Maybe it's not as relevant as what you're making it out to be. Maybe it isn't as catastrophic as what you think it is. I mean, you as a man are a protector, a provider, and a presider. And if you lose your shit every time something goes slightly sideways, you are undermining your ability to lead for yourself and in the eyes of other people. The people in your life are looking for security and safety and comfort and guidance and direction and leadership. And if you freak the F out every time some little thing happens, you're undermining your ability to lead your people effectively. Relax. Calm down. Ask yourself, is this going to matter in the next 5 hours, the next 5 days, the next 5 weeks? If the answer is no, it probably doesn't really matter now. And not everything warrants a response or an action just because somebody else might have a problem or you might be confronting some external circumstances. Number 3, look for the long-term results. I saw this all the time. I was a financial advisor for about 9 years. And I saw this all the time. People would come to me and they'd say, hey, Ryan, what's the best rate of return that you can get me? I mean, what does that mean? What do you mean? What does it mean? What's the best rate of return? Do you mean what's the best rate of return last year, this year, 10 years, 5 years, 100 years? Like, what is it exactly you're looking for? And most people would say, well, what's the best rate of return you got for your client last year? And depending on what portfolio we had them in, it could have been 2%, it could have been 27%, it could have been 80%, depending on the portfolio. But that's not the real question to be asking. The question to be asking is, what did you produce over 10, 20, 30, 50, 70 years that I can then go back and look at and see how I can improve my life? But most people are looking for short-term results. What feels good right now? So guys who are single will go on dates to attempt to get laid because it feels good right now. And I'm not going to argue with that. It definitely does. But is that what you're after? What feels good for the next 5 to 10 minutes? Or are you trying to build a lifelong relationship? When it comes to your kids, are your kids happy right now in this moment? Because if that's the case, just go buy them, take them to Chuck E. Cheese and buy them all the clothes they want, or let them go run around with whoever they want, and they're going to be happy. But is that going to serve them? Or are you more interested in producing bold, strong, capable, proficient adults? Because you might not spend all your money on them. You might not let them go hang out with that whoever. You might not let them run the roost around your house if your desire is for them to be functioning adults. If you're trying to build a relationship, if it's in the short term, you might be tempted to just acquiesce to your wife's propositions and appease her and give her gifts and do all the chores and turn into a passive wimp. You might get her to not pick on you or be a little nicer to you periodically, but is that what you want? Or do you want a relationship where you as a man are leading and guiding and instructing and coaching, and she's nurturing and supporting and loving and has empathy and kindness? Because those are two different sets of rules. I can get people to like me in the short term by just saying, yes, you're right, I believe in you, I will follow you, et cetera, et cetera. But if they're wrong, I'm not going to do that. And it rubs people the wrong way at times. But I'm more interested in what's going to happen over the long term. I'm not going to not discipline my kids because they have a hard time. I'm going to discipline them knowing that at some point, not now for sure, but at some point they'll realize I care about them. I'm not going to agree to everything the woman in my life might say just because I hope it appeases her and she loves me and she doesn't see me as a threat. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, this is exactly how I feel. This is what I want. This is what I care about. What do you want? What do you care about? And how can we make it work? Might ruffle more feathers in the short term, but over the long term, it's going to produce a much more favorable type of relationship. If we're looking at finances, I could be happy. I could go buy a truck. If I went and bought a truck, let's say a $90,000 truck today, I could go do that this afternoon. I could take some time. I could go to a couple of dealerships. I could find the truck I want, and I could go drop 90 grand. And I'm going to feel really good. I'm going to feel very excited. I'm going to take pictures of it. I'm going to share it with all my friends. I'm going to pick a few people up and give them a ride around. And then what happens in 5 days? Everybody's seen the truck and nobody cares. I don't even care that much at that point. And so I spent $90,000 for 3, 4, 5 days of joy and excitement. Lame. That's short-term thinking. Guys, what we do echoes in eternity. Put it out, like delay gratification. Think about the long-term perspective. Think about your legacy and what the people in your life will say about you when you die or they're doing your eulogy. If you can do that, I believe that you're going to make better decisions in your life. And that's what I'm trying to do. Make better decisions in my life through lengthening out the time frame of the lens in which I look. So again, the mindsets are, or the reasons why you would even consider this is it keeps us from allowing our emotions to get the better of us. Number 2, it keeps us from changing ourselves and playing small. And number 3, it keeps us in this abundance and investment mindset. And the way we do it specifically, number 1, stop. Just stop for a second. Relax, take a chill pill, take a time out, take a pause. It's going to be okay. And then you can make better decisions. Number 2, will this matter? It's the 5-5-5 rule. Will this matter in 5 hours? Will it matter in 5 days? And will it matter in 5 weeks? If you cannot answer no to any of those, then just leave it alone. It's going to be okay. And then number 3 is looking for long-term results, not short-term gratification. If it came easy, it'll leave easy. If it came hard and you really had to work for it, then you are more likely to invest, protect, and defend what it is you've earned. Guys, what we do echoes in eternity. And the longer we can lengthen out our time horizon and our perspective of life, the better off we're going to be. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. We'll be back next week for our interview. If you have any questions, thoughts, considerations, ideas, feedback, criticism, etc., connect with me on Instagram at Ryan Michler. I talked a little bit about Marcus Aurelius' book, Meditations. If you want other good book recommendations, go to orderman.com/bookshelf, orderman.com/bookshelf. And outside of that, just keep connected, keep listening, keep sharing. More men need to hear this. And let's go out there, take action, and become the men we are meant to be.